Hello, Catherine. Welcome to Slowmade.
Hello, Christine. How are you today?
Very good, very good. We've been following each other for a little bit now and
A
touching
few
base here and
years,
there.
definitely.
Yes. And
It's so
so
nice to
I
talk in person.
I know, I know. I think we might end up with a little overlap due to the distance between us, you know how the internet lags, but we'll figure it out. So I am really excited to be able to finally sit down with you and have this conversation. Your work is just enchanting. And of course, I especially love your earrings since I'm an earring girl, but I really like the ones with the little gold tendrils that
Oh, I love
I
these.
love
Oh,
those.
yes, yes, yes,
Yes.
yes.
So I can't wait to dive into your work and your story. And for our listeners who may not know you, why don't you take a moment and introduce yourself and share a little about your work and how you came to fall in love with this craft?
Okay. So my name is Catherine Marche. I'm from France. I've been brought up in different countries, and now I live in London, in the UK. I am a jewelry designer and goldsmith. And how did I fall in love with jewelry? I think I've always been in love with jewelry
Mm.
since I was a little girl. Um, I always made little things for my dolls, for myself. And I think I got my first pair of gold, it was hoops, gold hoops, when I was 9 years old. And my mother took me to get my ears pierced. And the doctor at the hospital didn't have the right things anymore. So he was using something which to me looked a bit like the needle that a shoemaker would use with thread.
My gosh.
And I just saw the machine and I ran away. So they had to chase me through the hospital garden. And, well, they found me. And my mother said, if we don't do it today, she will never do it. So they pierced one ear, and shame, I have to say, it did not hurt. So then
Mhm.
I gave my other ear to be done. And I started wearing earrings. Of course, I had chains, necklaces, bracelets. But when it turned to what I could study, I was quite good at school as well. So I decided to do math, physics, chemistry, and IT. Then I specialized in IT. But on the side, I always wanted to do a bit of art. So I also did drawing, painting, illustration, printmaking. And it's only after having worked as an IT consultant for, I don't know, 15 years or something like that, that then when I wanted children, I thought, that's not going to work because I won't see them. You know, you go to work, it's dark. You come back from work, it's dark. You work until 11 p.m. at the weekends, 2 a.m. sometimes. And I thought there's no point having children if I can't see them grow.
Right.
And then I started to explore what else could I do. And I was just thinking, I don't know, maybe I could, I don't know, work in translation or in fashion illustration. And then I thought, actually, that's one thing I really like. Everywhere I go, each time I travel, what do I bring back? Jewelry. Some people would bring postcards or little ceramics, but I would always bring back jewelry. And then I thought I should just take a class and see how it works, you know? And that's basically how I got started. So my first classes, we made little things in silver, which I just sold on Etsy at the time. And with the money, I would go and pay for more classes. So it was just very organic. And that's how I got started in the world of jewelry.
So during this time, were you still working in IT? And then was there like a particular moment that you thought this is going to work? I'm going to make a business out of this?
No, I had just left IT and then I just started jewelry. I didn't even started consciously thinking I would work in it. I just was very curious about the craft, wanted to learn techniques, and realized that there was so many different ways of making different techniques around that. Yes, I had to enroll for a degree and then another degree. And it's only after a few years that I realized that actually I was making, selling. So I had become a jeweler, but it was not intentional. It was really curiosity, wondering how things are made, the scientist in me, wondering how you put things together. Um, and then, yeah, because I started renting a workshop also from the very beginning. And so, yeah, but I didn't, yeah, I only realized I was a proper jeweler after several years in there.
So how long have you been practicing jewelry?
Oof. Good question. Who's counting? Probably, I'm that old. I have 16, 17 years, I
Yeah.
think.
So very similar. Yes. Yes. So I had read that you lived in 22 places across the 3 countries. Do you enjoy, the new adventure and experiences? I mean,
Absolutely love
what led
it.
you to all of these moves?
Well, a lot of them happened when I was a child because of my job, my father's job. He was in the Air Force at the time. And I remember when you announced that we were going back to France, I just couldn't stay in place. I was used for a specific rhythm of moving like at minimum every 2 years or sometimes every 6 months or whatever. And suddenly I was stuck in the same city for years. And it was so weird. So I think we went back to France when I was 10 years old. And I think after 2 or 3 years, I had to move around. So my parents had to sign special authorizations for the customs to let me go and travel on my own as a minor, which I did.
Wow.
I had this need to continue to explore the world, see new city, new people, talk different languages, eat different foods,
Yeah.
see other sort of art, absorb it all. I don't know, because that's what I was used to. So that's what I needed. And I still do. I still travel.
How do you think that, your sense of movement and discovery has kind of shaped you as an artist?
I think I have a high sense of color movement. Um, Probably my jewelry doesn't look very static when I think about it. It has movement as well. I think that my aesthetics are probably a mix of all the things I've been exposed to. I can't pinpoint when I see one of my items exactly, you can't really say, oh, this is French or this is. I know that it's quite minimalist in a way, quite aesthetically sober. And that's probably the French side, where we want to be elegant, but without being too flashy. But at the same time, I might use colors that are not necessarily demure.
Yeah, your work is just, it's so beautiful. There's a very fluid quality, as you said, about it, and often very organic and raw too, along with that sense of elegance. I just
Thank you.
love it. I really do. So then tell me about your studio and what a typical day looks like for you.
There is no typical day.
That's the best part, right?
Exactly. So basically I have my workshop, which is in Hatton Garden, which is a jewelry quarter in London, where I go a few days a week if I'm lucky. And I also have co-founded a jewelry collective. I think it was 2009 when we did that. And then I think it was 2012 or 13, we decided to get a shop. So I will spend a few days there as well, to, meet clients, sell jewelry. And I like the fact that I can be both in the workshop or meeting people, because I realized that working in isolation is not really for me. I need human contact. I need the conversation. I need to see what makes people tick. And everybody is different as well. So I really enjoy the relationship I get with the clients when we talk about, jewelry, what they'd like, what they want to try, what inspires them. I think I've been used to be a bit of a chameleon, and maybe that's why I also like doing some bespoke jewelry for people, to try to see when understand their personality, what would fit them and what would fit and suit their way of life. I see it as a mini challenge each time, a little adventure.
So then with your collective, is there a number of jewelry artists or just different artists involved in this? And what does that look like?
So we set it up as a non-for-profit, and
Mhm.
we have 6 permanent jewelers who alternate the days, so that when people come, they meet somebody different. We also have a few guests, and it's about collaboration, and helping each one another. Um, Sometimes it's quite useful to be able to, have those conversations which can be either super technical or, I don't know, about marketing but
Right?
the goal is also to help new jewelers to get their first place where they can sell their work, they can show their work, they can, test a new collection. And the
I
way
love
it's
that.
set up is because it's not for profit. The only thing we take, apart from a share of the rent, of course, is the credit card commission.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I think it's so hard when you're just starting to, have a place and even have the confidence to approach, a retailer or, I'm thinking also, Etsy was so easy so long ago. But now it's almost impossible to really build a business like you used to be able to on Etsy.
Yes,
And
but
I can
yes.
and I can absolutely relate to the fact that, what we do is very solitary, which is exactly why I started my online collective, is for those same reasons. So we could get together, work together, talk about marketing and jewelry and, frustrations and recipes, whatever we felt like talking about for the day. So that's wonderful. That's really exciting. How long has that been going on then?
So the collective we started in 2009, but at first it was to share stands at shows, big trade or retail shows. And the shop's been going on for 13 years now.
Wow, that's incredible. So then you choose not to work in there as well, or you need that extra space to do your work alone in your own workshop?
Well, the fact we do have a little bench in the shop, but it's quite. I mean, it's not a super big place. And what I've realized as well is inside, which I mean, not me, other people, because I didn't really mind. But we used to have. In fact, we still have a working bench, but we haven't put all the tools there. Like we need
Mhm.
acids, we need the fire, we need extra things, and I don't think the way we've set up the space that it's easy to do there. There was also some confusion when you had a goldsmith at work in the shop, where people would think that the shop belongs to them, and then they would get the commission. The person there would get the commission, but not the others. So it wasn't really
I
fair.
see. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
But I mean, I can still clean up castings or string pearls, or there are still a few things you can do when
Yeah.
you're at the shop. But yeah, like the real fabrication, I find it easier in a workshop.
Yeah.
You know, the rolling mill and everything else.
Yeah.
We are
You
in the UK and space is very small.
I yeah, I spent a little time in London in college. I had like 3 weeks there. And that was kind of my, I guess, reward for staying home for school, which I really didn't have a choice. My mother was definitely making that happen. But we went over and studied British history and political science. And I am not a history person, I am a science person. But it was
Me
still
too.
fun. And, it was a lot of fun. And we really spent a lot of time just roaming through the city and getting to know every little nook and cranny that we could in the 3 weeks we were there. So I understand the shops are rather small.
Yes. I know. I don't know if you've had the occasion to go to Germany, but I remember.
We did this last year, we went to Germany.
Uh-huh. Did you go to some jewelry shops there?
No, I did not.
Okay.
We had a short visit. We went to Germany and Paris. My husband was going for a dental conference in class. And so we were in Heidelberg. And so it has
Ah,
a great old town. I loved it. And then we went to Paris for a few days. So it just felt like we were trying to see everything we could in such a short amount of time. But
and
I'd
there is
love to be
so
able to
much to
go
see.
spend more time.
Because when I
Yeah.
went there, I remember I stepped into some artist studios, no jewelry studio. They were huge. I mean, not only they were huge, but they were on two levels. So they had the workshop at the top, the shop at the bottom, but the space was, I don't know, 8 times, 10 times what I get in London.
Yeah.
And same with some friends who have their shop in France. They have so much space, you know.
Mm. Do you ever
It's,
think you'll end back up in France, or do you like being in the UK?
well, I might end up
London.
once yeah, once the kids have finished all their studies or whatever. I don't know yet. I'm not sure because I don't know if, well, which city, where to go. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
Or
not
if it
sure.
even feel the same,
It
right?
will not feel the same. I mean, it
Yeah.
has evolved while I was away, you know. It would, which is normal. But yeah, at the same time, I'd rather go to a new place I haven't been to yet.
What's on your bucket list? What would you like to go?
Gosh, as a tourist or to work?
Either.
I don't know, maybe Asia. Proximity to gemstones, you know.
Mhm. Yes. So you describe yourself as a storyteller in metal and gemstone, which I just love that. When you sit down to design, does the story usually begin with the person, the stone, or something else entirely?
It really depends. Sometimes I just think of words which inspire me, and that's what's in my head, which is going to lead the process. Some other time, it's just the music I'm listening to with the kind of rhythm I have behind, which is going to inspire what I will do. For personal bespoke commissions, I try to understand the client's personality, and then I try to imagine how it will fit with them. So they will be the source of inspiration for that. But I'm quite experimental. I think it's true I have sketchbooks with lots of drawings, but when I think about it, I don't really necessarily do what's in my sketchbook because once I'm at the bench and I start playing with the metal and the gem, it kind of takes shape by itself, almost like when you're doing a painting, you know? um, you start doing your strokes and you think, oh, I need a bit more of this on the left and a bit more of that there. And I think, especially like that's how the tendrils came on those pearls. I was like, I love the baroque shape of these pearls. They're so organic and at the same time they're so precious. I like the way the color changes depending on how you look at them. And that's why I wanted to have a bit of a response to it, which was adding texture with, the top of those earrings, which is texture with the hammer. And then I wanted also the opposition of the light, the way the light moves. So while the pearl is very reflective, I wanted my metal to be more matte. And then I thought that to balance it all, I really wanted this little bit of movement, which were completely a bit like when you go diving in a sea and you see the corals, move around. I wanted to emulate something like that because the pearl came from the sea. And I was
Ah, yeah.
thinking, you also have like the rocks the on which the coral is going to be, or the animals, are moving. You see the fish who go through, and I wanted a bit of that to finish off those earrings.
Yeah,
So, but
I just love it.
I have to say that through the classes I did in college, studying jewelry, sometimes I did it the other way around. You're supposed to do your sketches, do all the measurement, and then make the jewelry, and then, no, first take the story. But sometimes I work in reverse. I make the object, and then I think, what does it make me think of? What story could it tell? I would do it backwards.
Yeah, I'm definitely backwards. Everything that I do is very intuitive. It's just like what catches my eye that day and how I'm feeling and what what feels like it looks good with that and balance. And today we had a studio co-working session, and for the 2 hours that I was down there and working, I just moved things around. I didn't have a plan today, and something started to take shape, and I'm excited about it. But I have never been one to follow anything that I've ever, drawn out. It always ends up into something else, and I like that part of the process. I like the discovery and to see where that takes you, you know?
I do know. I love that part. And it's almost as if I would feel very constrained if I had to follow the rules, so to speak. I think maybe yeah, I'm too much in love with freedom and liberty and doing what I want when I want, if I want, how I want,
Mhm.
to then have to apply that in my work.
So then is, creating bespoke jewelry a big part of your business?
I would say it's 50-50.
50/50? Do you enjoy it?
Yeah, I
I don't.
really enjoy it because, well, I see people, I talk to them.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but also my favorite bit is they don't really have a clue sometimes what's going to come out of the process. Even if I have sent them a little sketch to explain what I had in mind, all they've seen is a drawing, an illustration. They've seen it. Even if I do, the 3D drawing, it's hard for them to visualize it. But what I like is when I give them their little box and then they open and you can see on their face, the element of surprise and joy. And that's the bit I prefer
So then,
almost.
are you always kind of creating a drawing to work from then, or do they give you a certain amount of freedom that, you know, it may not end up like what you're seeing right here?
It depends on the clients.
I
But
see.
some want to see guidelines, which is completely understandable because also, I need to fit within their budget. So they want
Absolutely.
to understand exactly how it's going to work. So sometimes I can also show them photos of things I've done in the past, and I can say, okay, I think I could take a bit of this with a bit of that. It's a bit like a recipe that you can change depending on who's going to enjoy it.
Yeah. It feels like that there is a sense of like connection and emotion at the heart of what you do. Has there been a commission or moment in your studio that really reminds you why this matters? Why this work matters?
I think when people cry, yeah, I feel, oh my gosh, I didn't expect this. Um, because, a lot of jewelry is it's a commemoration of an emotion, of a moment you want to remember, of something important to you, whether it's just treating yourself or, you know, getting engaged or married, or I think it's the opportunity to put into 3D something intangible which then you can cherish, and not only you can cherish it, but if you have, family, or you can pass it on as well. And then when the person receives something which belongs to their beloved, I don't know, grandmother, it's also part of it's also part of all these connections. And when it's people who, let's say, don't have a family, it's just for them. Well, that's what they tell me. They're happy having it because it means something to them. It's something that they desired, something that reminds them of what they've achieved, of who they really are. It's an occasion to be able to express their inner essence yes, it's a statement of yourself in a way.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I make much sense.
No, you are. You're absolutely making sense. And it kind of goes back to what I've been saying recently is that people aren't buying jewelry just as a little accessory. They are buying a feeling. They're, at least if they're purchasing a piece that has been handcrafted. If you're just going on Amazon or, to one of the stores and just getting, something that hasn't had a lot of thought in it, oftentimes you are just getting an accessory. But I feel like when somebody invests in a piece of handcrafted jewelry, they are really looking for a feeling to connect with and to bring them back to themselves, maybe remind themselves of who they are, or to go out into the world and feel a certain way. And I love that. I love that about what we do.
Absolutely. I
So oh, go ahead.
was just thinking, it's really what makes sense about it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you can't really explain it. And it's the same, I think, not just with jewelry sometimes, sometimes you feel that you need, I don't know, let's say a new sweatshirt or whatever. And you go to shop and shop and shop, and you never find what you want. And suddenly, can't explain why, but there's a match. And I think this thing which seems so elusive, you find it with jewelry as well. Sometimes you don't really know what you're looking for, but then when you see it, that's it. That's it's a need. I know people think, oh, jewelry is luxury. It's not something you need. But I think you do, because that's something that you find in every single kind of civilization at any era. And it doesn't have to be precious. They used to have stones and shells and bits of bones to adorn themselves. And whether people are, in a remote jungle or big city, there's always these bits of tokens that people have to own, to put on themselves. So yeah, that's why I think it's a need.
Do you have any, how do I want to say this? Like themes or reoccurring elements that you love to incorporate within your jewelry and you find yourself coming back to again and again?
Mm. I've realized that I'm not very geometric. So probably the curve, any kind of curve. I like the curve. I don't know if it's because it's what is associated with female or if it's because it's the movement. I think I don't like, or maybe it's nature. Nature, it's all about unexpected movement and nothing is symmetrical. I mean, even our face is not symmetrical. So in my jewelry, I don't like to have complete exact symmetry either, because I see it as an expression and an extension of yourself. So yeah, maybe I think people are wonky. I don't know.
I love that. So you've explored so many techniques. I know, from like granulation to miniature enamel painting. Are there some other techniques that you're hoping to dive into soon? Or do you feel you have a pretty good tool belt now?
Pretty good tool box at the moment, I think. There's one I have not explored at all, which is filigree.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I'm not sure. Well, I'm not ready for it. I think it's not. Yeah.
It's not calling to you enough.
Well, I admire it. I find it gorgeous. But because, it's usually quite flat and I'm not sure it's my medium.
Mm. Yeah. So many of us who take a heart-centered, slower approach to our craft wrestle with that tension between creative exploration, growth, and making what actually supports our lives. Your work feels both elegant and artistic, which I love. But have you ever found yourself caught in that struggle at all? Because it feels like you
Absolutely.
just kind of
Absolutely.
follow your whim with it.
Yes, I mean, I do absolutely. Yeah, the struggle is real. Let's put it this way. Uh, I think it's always the thing which is where you say, oh, if I keep doing what I really want to, will anybody ever buy it, ever like it, ever want it? Or should I just try to follow some trends? I know that, okay, I've created several collections, but at the same time, it's almost like I find it annoying to have to work with collections because you have to repeat some elements and I don't really see my clients wearing the earrings matching the necklace, wearing the bracelet, then matching the rings. They're more eclectic in
Right.
their choices. So, but then I know that sometimes it might not make sense to see different things on the same website. If you don't go through the collections, you might not understand how they can work together. I know that I think if you just really want to have trendy jewelry, you can go to any shop. I shouldn't say that, but I think you go to an artisan because you value what extra they can bring. And for me, it's important also to, knowing how things are done, where they come from, why they are the way they are, and maybe I'm a control freak. I don't know. It's hard to know what to do because you can't see in the future, you know?
Yeah. Well,
So,
and I know for myself, if I could, I would work in gold exclusively again. Um, but the way I've modeled my business, it makes it much more challenging to be able to do that. And gold prices have gone through the roof here. So,
exactly. And the
I don't
silver
know
is
if
going
that's
up
a
as well.
consideration, for you as well, that it plays into, well, should I make this or should I make that? Because for me, when I sit down with some gold, I'm considering, well, what if this doesn't sell? Or what if, I sit on this piece for a very long time or this inventory? That makes it much more challenging for me because I don't have the retailers carrying my work any longer out of, my choice to do that, and selling direct to customer. So there's always like some tension for me with that.
It's a catch-22, Christine, isn't it? Because I
Mhm,
mean, I've been
mhm.
there too. I realized that if you also offer, some cheaper pieces in silver, then people will come to you for that. But if you're only known for the gold, then that's what they would come for. But if you prefer the gold over the silver, you almost want to only show that aspect because that's what you want to attract. And I'm like you, I've got both. And I know that I just love gold so much. I like silver too, but I'm more drawn to gold.
Yeah.
It's
I
it's
feel
it's
like
like
it I
physical.
feel like it really it makes a stone come alive. It's like it gives it that heartbeat.
I agree. Absolutely agree. And I like how warm it is. And
You've
also,
rec
I'm very reluctant to put expensive stones in silver. Although they used to do that in the past, they would have the shank of the ring in gold and the top would be silver with diamonds or whatever.
You've received quite a lot of notable press, and I initially spent so much money working with a publicist, and I certainly received a lot of great press, not that I didn't know that it was a long-term marketing strategy that, you couldn't do it for a couple months and then really expect it to pay off. So, I was able to take that knowledge and begin pitching to editors myself. And I think many of my listeners would love to know if you've worked with a publicist like I do or had, or if you've pitched to editors yourself and maybe what you've learned along the way.
So when I first started, I did have a publicist for about a year. And at the same time, I was also pitching the press. And after a year, when I looked, I realized that I had received probably as much coverage by myself or more than what the publicist had done. So financially, it didn't really make sense to
Right.
continue with them. So most, yeah, of the press I've received, it was from me contacting them directly.
That's fantastic.
And I've never, apart from the publicist, era, I've never paid for press. I haven't paid influencers or PR,
Yeah.
yeah.
I always was amused when somebody would try to get you to pay for placement or, an influencer, and I thought, "No, I'm done with this." But, yeah, once you kind of have a relationship with the editors, just from sending, the samples to them, they're more than happy to work straight with you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. I mean, it's hard also because they keep moving around, and
Yeah.
sometimes the new role has nothing to do with being a feature editor or a stylist or whatever. So you kind of lose that. So you always need to, be
Mhm.
aware of what's going on around. But I haven't been really shy. I've just, so one tip, sometimes if I really love some editorial, I tell them. I just go, I adore this, it's fabulous, da da da. And I don't really toot my own horn, so to speak. It's just I do a conversation, I have a conversation, and then maybe 6 or 7 months later, they realize I'm a jewelry designer, and they go, "Oh, do you have anything?" Or but it, yeah, I have to say I was probably a bit lucky because I didn't specifically look for being featured in some of the magazine. It's like sometimes I see young students who study fashion or styling, And I just tell them, oh, this is my card. If you ever need to borrow some jewelry for one of your photo shoots, come. I'll give you something to
That's
play
great
with.
advice. Yeah.
Then just give it back to me when you're finished. And I would say a lot of the press, that's how it happened. And I think they're happy that I trust them with my wares. And I'm always really happy with the result because they're so creative that they put my jewelry in situation I would not even have thought about. So you see another aspect of how what you created can be worn, and I find that fascinating.
Yeah, your press, it's beautiful. I've seen
Thank
the
you.
pieces on there. I was looking through that last night and it's like it was really amazing. So, what's been one of the most rewarding aspects about running a creative business?
I think being able to create pleasure for the clients, that's very rewarding. Um, Also being able to wear some of the things you make is nice. I would
True.
say one of the dangers, I mean, for me, is when you go to buy some gemstones. And of course, you buy more than what you need because they're all saying, look at me, I'm so beautiful. You know you want me. Da, 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 da. Of course, gemstones talk,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. They do. I know they do.
They do. They talk to me all the time. And sometimes when I really like a stone, I don't even want to make jewelry for clients when it's like, it's mine.
Yeah, I'm thankful that so much of my time is in my studio and away from everyone because, I could get dolled up for myself, but more often than not, this is how you're going to find me. This is my workwear. So, yeah, but I have definitely been bewitched by gemstones, and I'll find one that I love and it's like, if there's several of them, I just want to have them all. It's like,
Mm,
these are so beautiful, I need more.
it's a disease. It's called jewelry ice.
Yes, yeah.
I've got it very deeply.
I think we all do. So what guides you in your art practice and business? Do you have like a personal philosophy or a beacon that guides you and keeps you focused?
I think I try to experience some kind of joy. If I'm not in the good mood, it's not going to work.
Yep.
And what guides me? I think I really enjoy change. I like the fact that every day is a bit different. There are days that I will not be at the shop, I will not be at the studio, but I'm going to go see an exhibition or meet a friend and I think it's really nice to be able to combine um work and pleasure so that then you don't start to feel obligated to always be in the studio creating and start to resent it. It's almost like an exchange. Like I give some of my time, you give me some, pleasure. Then I'm going to give some happiness to couples or people buying things. But I also need to be me to see my friends, family, and it's quite free, liberating.
Yeah, it sounds very balanced. That you have a very balanced work and personal life.
Ish.
So
I mean,
so so so.
yeah, you can find me behind the computer at 11 p.m. as well.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
uh, trying to improve the quality of an image or listing a new product or, yeah.
Yeah.
But I,
If
I
you
was listening to, yes, sorry, I was
Go
listening to
ahead.
something
No,
you
go ahead.
said, Christine, when you said that you've stopped having stockists.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I'm the same. And for me, it was because some stockists shut. A lot of them, most of them shut during COVID. Some never reopened, and some never paid me. Or sometimes my jewelry disappeared, in the process. So I'm not trusting them as much anymore. And also, I find it is a bit difficult as well when the stockist commission is so high that
Mhm.
it's very hard to get a pricing in competition with some of the other brands, which probably have, a bigger studio, access to lower prices for the supplies, and so that it doesn't look like this with the rest, or yeah.
Yeah, for me, I just got burnout. I was growing rapidly, and I really wanted to keep creating each piece with my hand. And I couldn't see that happening and continuing to grow at that point. And it just came down to me really taking a look of what do I love to do? What part of this business is important to me? Is the growth important? And what is that feeding? Is that feeding my ego? Is it, because certainly when you're working with stockists, you're definitely being seen by more people, but it is taking a sizable chunk of the revenue coming in. So you're working twice as hard to do what you love. And I did not like creating collections.
I
I
know.
just I did not like that. I did not like the pressure behind that. And yeah, so it was just a choice that I made to pivot. And there's good and bad things about it, but I definitely enjoy the fact that I get to come to the bench, create what I love to make, and I don't feel that there's as much pressure to satisfy anyone else. Mhm.
Yeah, because I think ultimately it's about you, isn't it? You
Mhm.
need to enjoy when you're doing something, and you need to be proud also of what you're doing. And I think that if you happen to have to feel pressure of, I need 25 of these and 10 of that, for next week, all you do is just solder,
Right.
there's no room for imagination anymore.
Right. Exactly. So if you could teach your collectors one thing about choosing a piece of jewelry, what would that be?
Your intuition.
I love that. I love that.
What
So
I've noticed sometimes is you have people who love something, and then they start to second guess themselves, thinking, oh, but I have nothing to wear with it, and what will my husband say, or da 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 da. But who is wearing it?
Mhm.
They are. So why do they need validation? If you like something, if it talks to you, just go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It's definitely if you're feeling pulled to that piece, if you're feeling that it's touching you in some way or making you feel something, then that's the one. That's
I
the
think
one.
so.
Well, Catherine, before we finish our conversation today, is there anything you have on the horizon that you'd like to share about, or anything that I didn't touch upon that you want to make sure that we speak about?
I think you've been very thorough. Thank you very much for taking the time to have this nice conversation with me.
Oh,
I think we should do
absolutely.
it again and again and again.
Well, I need to come there and then we could do it in person.
Exactly. And vice versa.
Yes, yes. So then I know that our listeners are going to want to connect with you, see your beautiful work. How can they best do that? Where can they find you?
Actually, they can just Google my name, Catherine Marche, and they should find my website, I hope, if Google works.
Well, I will definitely have the links to your Instagram and to your website in the show notes, and people can
Thank
check
you.
that out as well.
Thank you very much, Christine.
It's been such a pleasure, Catherine. I'm so glad we finally connected.